5-number summary and creating box plots. To start with, a 5-number summary, sometimes you'll be asked to write the 5-number summary for a set of data. What you would include in the 5-number summary is your minimum or the smallest data point in the data set, quartile 1, which is the median of the lower half of the data points, the median, which is the very middle data point, quartile 3, which is the median of the upper half of the data points, and then the maximum, which is the largest data point. So minimum, median, and maximum, you all should be familiar with. So if we were thinking about our data as this rectangle right here, it's all listed, right? Our median would be right here in the middle. It's our very middle term. Our maximum would be down here. Our minimum would be over here. So smallest term, middle term, largest term. Quartile 1 is the median of this data set right here. So the lower half of all the data, that would be like quartile 1, okay? And then quartile 3 would be the median of the upper half of the data set, okay? Let's do an example where we have to calculate the 5-number summary. So here we have a data set, and I want to know the minimum, quartile 1, the median, quartile 3, and the maximum. So our first step is going to be to order these from smallest to largest. So doing that, let's see, my smallest number is 5. Then I have a 7, an 8, and a 9. Then I have 10, 11, 12, 13. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 15s. I have 2 17s and 1 19. Okay, so now all of my data is lined up. I can very clearly see that my minimum is 5 and my maximum is 19. So my smallest data point in this set is 5. My largest data point in this set is 19. Now I want to figure out my median. So I just want to cross off these numbers, and I'm going to cross above this time because we're going to need it. We're going to need these numbers for our quartiles. So I'm just crossing off these numbers until I get to my middle term, which is 13. So my median is 13. I was just double checking that correctly. So yes, our median is 13. Now we want to figure out our median of this half of the data and our median of this half of the data. So our lower half median is going to be quartile 1. Our upper half median will be quartile 3. So looking between 5 and 12, I want to do the exact same thing that I did to figure out my median, but only through numbers 5 to 12. So I'm going to use blue this time. So I'm going to cross off 1 on each side until I get to my median of my lower half of my data. The median of the lower half of my data is 9. And now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, on the upper half of my data, or above my median, to figure out quartile 3. So between 15 and 19, I want to figure out what my median is for the upper half of the data, and I find that quartile 3 is 15. So my 5-number summary for this data, my minimum is 5, my quartile 1 is 9, median is 13, quartile 3 is 15, maximum is 19. So based off of this 5-number summary, I can figure out the range of my data, how spread out my data is. I know that my range is going to be 14 because it's all between 5 and 19. I can figure out a measure of central tendency, which is the median, and then I can figure out how spread out the middle 50% of my data is. So when I think about this quartile 1 and quartile 3, this section right here is the middle 50% of my data. I'm going from my lower median to my upper median. So the middle half of my data is spread out between 9 and 15. All of my data is spread out between 5 and 19, but that middle 50% is spread out between 9 and 15. Okay, So thinking about box plots are a graphical way for us to show this 5-number summary. So on a box plot, we have our rectangle in the middle. This is our middle 50% of our data. So this is the middle 50% of all of our data points. This here would be the upper 25% of our data points. And this section down here would be the lower 25% of our data points. We have our minimum value, our maximum value, our median is in the middle, our quartile 1, our quartile 3. So the rectangle in the middle is made up of quartile 1 to quartile 3, and then we have lines on either side that show us where our minimum and our maximum are. So our next slide is going to teach us how we can create box plots specifically using technology. So this is the exact same website that you all used to create histograms with technology. So if you go to that website, it looks exactly the same. We can type in our data points into the data set column on the left, and then we can select box plot instead of histogram. So let's do that real quickly. So on the left side here where it says data sets, I want to type in all of those points from the data set on the slide. So I had 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I had 4 15s, 2 17s, and 1 19. Okay, so here we can clearly see that our representation right now is a histogram. So where I wrote my data points over here, if I scroll down, right now histogram is selected. Instead, I want to select box plot. So from this data, using this online tool, I can see my 5-number summary in this box plot. So just like we got originally, my minimum is 5, my maximum is 19, my median is 13, and then my quartile 1 is 9, and my quartile 5 is 15. So again, this rectangle in the middle, this box in the middle, represents the middle 50% of my data. This lower line represents the lower 25% of my data, and this upper line represents the upper 25% of my data.